The truth is in this document.
What? No.
I never imagined that the woman I once promised forever to would one day drag me into court, demanding not just millions of dollars, but also the very land my family had poured generations of sweat into. Yet there I was, staring at her across the courtroom, while her lawyer listed demands that sounded less like a divorce settlement and more like a full-scale robbery. $8.5 million. The family ranch. Everything my grandfather and father had worked to protect. All because she claimed she had sacrificed for me and now deserved half of everything. But she didn't know what I had in my hand. One document. One piece of paper that held the truth, and once revealed, would unravel every lie she had built her case upon. Before I get to that moment, let me take you back to where it all started, back when I believed love was enough, and when I thought sharing a life meant sharing dreams, not battles. I grew up on the ranch. To outsiders, it might have looked like endless fields and old barns, but to me, it was history. My grandfather had built it during the Great Depression. My father had expanded it, and when I was old enough, I learned every corner of it. The smell of hay in the mornings, the way the horses knew me by voice, the quiet sunsets, it wasn't just land, it was identity. When I met Rachel, I thought she saw that too. She was charming, lively, and said all the right things. She claimed she loved the quiet country life, said she admired how deeply I cared about family traditions. At first, I believed her. Love makes you blind to details you should notice. We married within 2 years, and at first everything seemed normal. But little cracks began to show. Rachel would complain about the hard work on the ranch, about how isolating it felt. She wanted weekend trips, fancy restaurants, vacations that didn't fit into ranch life. At first, I gave in. I told myself compromise was part of marriage. But soon, it was never enough. She wanted more spending, more attention, more proof that I valued her above everything else. The breaking point came when she started talking about what's hers. It wasn't our life, our money, or our ranch. It was about her share. She'd remind me that as my wife, she had rights and could take half of everything if things didn't go her way. She said it like a threat, a warning whispered in the dark whenever I refused one of her new demands. And then she acted on it. The day she filed for divorce, I felt the ground shift under me. It wasn't just papers, it was war. Her lawyers painted me as a selfish husband who had kept her from her dreams, who had used her, who had built his wealth on her sacrifices. They demanded $8.5 million in assets and full ownership of the ranch property. I sat in that courtroom the first day of hearings, listening to lies stack upon lies, and wondered how someone I once trusted could twist reality so cruelly. But here's the thing about truth. It doesn't need decoration. It doesn't need exaggeration. It just needs proof. And I had it. Rachel thought she knew every corner of my world. What she didn't realize was that the ranch wasn't legally tied to me in the way she believed. My father had set things up years ago. Trusts, ownership transfers, documents Rachel had no idea existed. I held in my hands the legal shield that would not only protect the ranch, but also expose her greed. Still, I had to sit through weeks of tension before that moment came. Her lawyer grilled me, painting me as cold, ungrateful, and dismissive. They brought up vacations I never took her on, luxuries she never had, framing me as some miser who had locked her away on the ranch to suffer. She sat there, stone-faced, as if none of our history mattered, only what she believed she could extract from me. And then came the day her lawyer demanded, in front of the judge, not only the money but the deed to the ranch. It is only fair, he said, that she receive half of the assets, including the ranch property that has defined this marriage. That was the moment I finally unfolded the document. The room went silent as I placed the folded document on the table in front of me. I didn't reveal what it was just yet. I let the silence linger, the way a storm hangs in the air before lightning strikes. Rachel's attorney smirked, assuming I was scrambling, that I was about to give in. But I knew the tides were about to turn. Mr. Carter, the judge said firmly, "Do you have a response to these claims? Your wife has presented her case. Do you have evidence to support your side?" "Yes, Your Honor," I replied, steadying my voice. "But before I present it, allow me to share something. I looked at Rachel. For the first time in months, I didn't see my wife. I saw a stranger. Someone who had rehearsed lies, twisted moments, and erased years of love with a single stroke of greed. You claim this ranch was built on your sacrifices, I said, addressing her directly. But where were you at dawn when I was in the fields? Where were you when my father was sick and I worked double shifts to keep the place running? Where were you when the bank threatened foreclosure and I spent sleepless nights negotiating to save this land? Her eyes flickered, just for a moment. The courtroom was hushed. You weren't there, I continued. You were in town, chasing the life you wanted. And I let you because I believe marriage meant supporting each other's happiness. But don't stand here and say this ranch was yours. It was never yours. It was entrusted to me by generations of my family, long before you stepped into my life. Her lawyer quickly objected, calling it irrelevant speech. But the judge raised a hand. I'll allow it, he said quietly. Rachel's attorney pressed again. Your Honor, this is just emotional appeal. The law is clear. Half of all marital assets, including property, are subject to division. And that's when I smiled, unfolding the paper. With respect, Your Honor, I said, this ranch isn't marital property. And I can prove it. I handed the document to the bailiff, who brought it to the judge. He adjusted his glasses and began to read. The room leaned into the silence. What he held was a legal trust established by my father. The ranch had never been in my sole name, not during my marriage, not even before. My father, wise as he was, had placed the ranch into a family trust years ago, designating it as protected generational property. I was caretaker, not sole owner. And by law, it was untouchable in divorce proceedings. The judge's eyebrows lifted slightly as he read, then lowered in thought. Rachel's attorney sputtered. This must be a mistake. He's just pulling out paperwork that could be forged. It's notarized, recorded, and filed with the county registry, the judge interrupted. This document is legitimate. The color drained from Rachel's face. But I wasn't done. Your Honor, I said, my wife claimed entitlement to $8.5 million in assets. But if you look closely, you'll see she already siphoned far more than her share. Gasps echoed as I produced bank statements, records of withdrawals she had made over the years, lavish spending on luxury trips, high-end shopping, even private accounts I hadn't known existed until the divorce discovery process uncovered them. She says she sacrificed. I continued, my voice tightening with each word. But what she sacrificed was not for me. It was for herself. For years, I gave freely. I provided. I trusted. But that trust was abused. Rachel's lawyer objected again, but the judge silenced him. This court is not blind to greed, the judge said firmly. The trust document is binding. The ranch is not part of the marital estate. And given the evidence of financial misconduct presented here, this court will not award the demands your client has made. The air shifted. For the first time, Rachel looked uncertain. Her lips parted as if she might argue, but no words came. I should have felt triumphant. But sitting there, I felt something else, something heavier. It wasn't victory I felt. It was grief. Grief for the years I had given to someone who only saw dollar signs. Grief for the man I had been, the one who believed promises without reading between the lines. Still, justice had been served. The judge's gavel struck, and with that sound, the war she had started ended. But the story didn't end in that courtroom. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt eyes on me. Reporters had caught wind of the case, snapping photos, throwing questions. To them, it was a scandal, a greedy wife, a hidden trust, a courtroom twist. But to me, it was simply survival. Later that night, I sat on the porch of the ranch house, the document lying on the table beside me. I thought of my father. He had once told me, son, land is more than dirt. It's memory. It's blood. Don't let anyone take it from you. Not outsiders, not even those who claim to love you. I hadn't understood him fully then, but I did now. Rachel had tried to take it all, but thanks to that one document, she walked away with nothing more than her bitterness. And me, I walked away with my family's legacy intact. Still, something inside me had changed, because even after winning, I couldn't shake the question, why did I stay blind for so long? Why did it take a courtroom battle to open my eyes? Maybe the ranch was safe, maybe my fortune was secure, but my heart? That would take longer to mend. The days after the trial felt strangely quiet. For months, my life had been consumed by lawyers, hearings, and sleepless nights filled with dread. And now, suddenly, it was over. But silence doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it means you finally have to face what you've been avoiding. I walked through the ranch, past the worn fences and old barns, and every corner whispered memories. My father teaching me how to ride. My mother bringing out fresh bread for the workers. My grandfather's stories by the fire. This land carried voices of people who had given everything to protect it. And I had almost let it slip away because I trusted the wrong person. Rachel was gone, but the scars she left behind remained. At first, I thought anger would carry me. After all, hadn't she tried to take everything from me? Didn't she deserve my rage? But as the days stretched on, something unexpected happened. The anger faded, replaced by something deeper, disappointment. Not just in her, but in myself. I replayed our years together. The early days when I had ignored the warning signs. The way she rolled her eyes when I talked about the ranch. The way she always measured life by money and status. I had convinced myself those things didn't matter. That love would smooth over cracks. That patience would change her. But people don't change for you. They change for themselves, if they ever do. One evening, as the sun dipped low, I sat on the porch with a glass of whiskey in my hand. My neighbor, Hank, an old friend of my father's, joined me. He had watched the trial from afar, never asking questions, just waiting. "You did good," he said simply. "Did I?" I asked. "I kept the ranch, sure. But I feel like I lost years of my life. Years I can't get back." Hank chuckled, low and rough. "Son, we all lose years to something. Work, mistakes, heartbreak. What matters is what you do with the years ahead. You've still got those." His words sat heavy on me. Maybe he was right. Maybe the ranch wasn't just a reminder of the past. Maybe it was a chance to build something new. I started small, fixing fences, repainting the barn, working with my hands again. There was therapy in labor, in sweat dripping down your back while the sun beat down. Slowly, the bitterness began to loosen its grip. But healing isn't linear. Some nights, I still woke up with her words echoing in my head. Her threats, her demands, the cold way she looked at me in court as if I was nothing more than a paycheck. It was in those moments I reminded myself of that piece of paper, that trust. Not just because it saved the ranch, but because it reminded me of something bigger, foresight. My father had protected me without me even realizing it. He had prepared for a storm I never saw coming. And I realized maybe that was my job now, to prepare for storms, to carry forward the wisdom he had left behind. Months later, Rachel tried one last desperate move. She called me, voice trembling with false sweetness, saying we could work things out if I offered her a settlement privately. I listened silently, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger or hurt. I felt nothing. "No, Rachel," I said simply. "That part of my life is over." And I hung up. That was the moment I knew I was free. Freedom doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to live without the weight of chains. I began hosting gatherings at the ranch again. Family barbecues, neighbors stopping by, even opening parts of the land for community events. Laughter filled the fields that had once been silent. Kids ran through the grass. Music carried through the night air. And for the first time in years, the ranch felt alive again. People ask me about the trial sometimes, curious about the drama, the money, the scandal, but I never gave them the details they craved. Instead, I told them the only truth that mattered. It's not about what someone tried to take from me. It's about what I refused to let go of. Looking back now, I see the court battle not as an ending, but as a beginning. Rachel thought she could break me, but what she really did was force me to rebuild myself stronger. The ranch stands. The legacy stands, and so do I. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Greed may win battles, but it never wins wars. Truth does, and sometimes truth is written on a single piece of paper, held tightly until the moment it matters most. Years from now, when I hand this ranch to the next generation, I'll tell them about that trial, not to stir bitterness, but to remind them of the importance of guarding what matters, of never letting love blind you to red flags, of standing firm when storms come. And I'll tell them about that one document, a father's foresight, a son's salvation, and the reason our family story continues. Because in the end, it wasn't about $8.5 million. It wasn't about a courtroom victory. It was about honor. And honor, unlike money, can never be taken. It can only be lost if you surrender it. I didn't surrender, and I never will. The end.